The next section, before we get to the call to action, the next section is why now and what's the risk of doing nothing. This is where we talk about the negative future. Pretty much the only place really where we spend much time talking about the negative future. This is also, by the way, oftentimes the only part of the webinar where sales might have a direct contribution for you. In B2B, why now is by far the most difficult question to answer in any marketing or sales context. In B2B, there's really no such thing as scarcity. If you can't create time scarcity, you can't create product scarcity. By definition, a corporate customer expects you to have the exact same widget 2 years from now that you have now, right? There might be if it's software, it might be an improved version of that widget, but they expect it to exist and they expect you to exist. So, you don't necessarily expect that your favorite coffee shop will have the same flavors of coffee or the same roasts 3 years from now that they have today. But you would absolutely expect that from a corporate point of view. You need to be able to do your planning. And also they know that if you try to create any time scarcity by saying, and customers who buy by the end of Q4 get a 10% discount, they're going to come back to you 9 months from now and they're going to say, hey, remember that discount? Give us that discount. And you're going to give it to them. Because if you don't, they're going to go to your competitor, and you're not going to lose a big sale over a 10% discount. You're just going to give it to them. So they know that. So there's no scarcity in B2B, which means why now is always the toughest question to answer. Normally, someone in sales, if your sales team's on the ball, they have figured out ways to answer why now. They may have even figured out some kind of scarcity that you wouldn't think about. I'll give you an example. One of the very, very few examples of scarcity I've ever been able to write for clients for their webinars is for a boutique engineering firm. And what would happen is they didn't want to increase their head count. They didn't want to expand to other states. They wanted to stay their size. They were very focused on quality of their work and not expansion and growth at the expense of quality. So they knew ahead of time they were only going to take on like 12 clients per year. And that was more than enough for them, kept everybody busy, kept everybody happy. The customers loved them. The customers were fanatic about them. So, by around the, mid-year, they would start including in their webinars, and this is what I wrote for them, that now we're a specialized, ultra niche boutique engineering firm. We only do about 12 projects a year. Or actually, we took out the word about. We only do 12 projects a year. That's what we can handle. We're not going to grow at the expense of quality. Every time we've tried to grow, we had quality issues. We're staying the size we are, which means that if you want us to design X for you, then we've only got like 7 slots or 4 slots left for this year. Otherwise, we won't be able to start again until some projects have already been finished up, and that's going to be next year. So they were able to create quantity and time scarcity, but it was like a specific business decision to do that. And then they always thought of it as a weakness in their presentations, and I pointed out it's actually a strength, right? It's one of the rare chances that you get to introduce scarcity into a B2B conversation. But you're probably not in that situation. And so you don't really have scarcity of any kind. So what you're aiming for with why now, and this is why you talk to your salespeople, is there are often other options that you can use for why now. Your salespeople will know that better than I do for your individual situation. The more time you spend figuring out your answer to why now, the better you'll be. Chances are you don't spend any time thinking about why now because you think it's impossible to answer. A lot of questions that seem impossible to answer are definitely possible to answer, and someone's already got the answer. You're just not asking around your company. But go to your head of sales, if that person's not involved in this webinar's construction already, and you ask them, like, tell me, like, how do we answer why now? Like, what kind of negative future can we talk about? I mean, it usually comes down to one of two things, right? You're going to lose money every day until you buy from us, or you're going to lose market share to a competitor every day until you buy from us. Sometimes there are others, though. So, ask around. But at a minimum, you can at least touch on the losing money every day because we save you money, or or we make you money, or you're losing to your competitors because they already have this product or they're doing something similar. Okay. And then and that moves into the risk of doing nothing, right? You will move into a negative future that's even worse than your negative present, is the implication there. Now, don't spend a lot of time trying to scare people. Nobody gets really scared in a webinar. I mean, the fact is, for the most part, webinars are pleasant, work related ish infotainment anyway. I mean, a B2B webinar is kind of the equivalent of having NPR in the background. Nobody yells. There's no screaming. There's not a lot of drama. The volume doesn't go up and down, right? There's no crashes and gunfights. There's nothing like that in a webinar. It's it's pretty stable, right? We create pockets and movement inside that band, but we can't really move outside that band overall, or else the audience thinks that we're weird, or you wouldn't be a stable partner or a stable vendor. So we have to operate within this range here. As far as volume and content and that kind of stuff. So all of the work, like all B2B marketing, it's very constrained for what you can say and what you can do. All of the work and creativity fits within that band. And of course, all creativity comes from constraints. So, at our business, we love that. We love the constraints of a B2B enterprise technical kind of webinar, because it gives us, once you sort of crack that code, it's a really fun field to be in. But like I said, don't spend too much time hammering on the negatives, but make sure you bring them up. And that will lead us right into the call to action.